So this is exactly the time when you've lost all the other major competitors in a primary, when a party is supposed to rally around that kind of figure. And yet in the crucial states I mentioned, Ohio and Florida, 18% of the primary voters rejecting Trump. Bright red Kansas, higher, 21%. Ohio's exit polls have even more red alert signs because the Ohio Republicans who turned out, many are just saying they don't like Trump as the nominee. They obviously have gotten to know him over these years, and they have concluded, about a fifth of them, that he still lacks the temperament to be president again. 1 out of 5 saying, based on that, they're not going to back him in November. This is an indicator of the ongoing rift in the GOP. Now, that is worse than some Republicans were hoping for, with, again, Nikki Haley getting out, and the message being, whatever you think, if you want to beat the Democrats, and that's what most Republican Party members want to do, the argument would be it's time to coalesce. And none of this means it can't be fixed just because it looks worse for them than they thought. Reagan famously patched things up with his primary rival, Bush, to unite the party, to campaign together, all smiles after a lot of debating and fighting. But it took a kind of outreach that Reagan was able to do that Trump is not doing, certainly not to Nikki Haley herself, not really publicly to her voters. In fact, it is the Biden campaign and its high-powered allies right now that are courting some of Haley's Trump foes, her top donors who were trying to stop him. That effort seeks to both fund Biden and take donors off the table to corner Trump as he faces this cash crunch. There is fatigue, there's hesitation reported about donors who've been giving to Trump for years, but now, as CNBC reports, have had it. And there is a context for that. Donald Trump has diverted tens of millions of his donors' money into efforts that really don't have anything to do with winning campaigns in the future. That includes the history of those futile attacks on the election he lost, led by now indicted Giuliani, funding extreme efforts to complain about it, to push conspiracy theories, diverting money to cover Donald Trump's personal legal bills, and that went on for years. That fatigue took time, but it has landed among some Republicans. We can measure that now. And all that's before the latest money problems for Trump as he loses these fraud and defamation cases. And then you had this week's confession from Trump lawyers that turns out he doesn't have the money required under law to appeal that massive fraud loss. Dozens of bond companies won't back him. MSNBC has been reporting on that along with other outlets. And the issue, of course, is that the properties that Trump might put up as collateral may not have enough value to secure the bond. So here we are, the problems I mentioned on Unity and the financial problems. What does it look like when Donald Trump's personal legal debts and campaign cash crunch combine? Well, I'm about to show you. Because Donald Trump is now essentially admitting in public he could actually lose his properties if he doesn't get a kind of MAGA political welfare from his fans. A man who claims to be a billionaire is now asking people who live check to check to send their money to him so that, as the fundraising email puts it, the government will keep its hands off Trump Tower. The former president and apparently indebted defendant calling on, quote, 1 million pro-Trump patriots to bail him out. So where are we tonight? You know, I was off on vacation. I came back, covered the news with you. You're probably pretty caught up. I'll tell you where I think we're at. Donald Trump has already reached the GoFundMe stage of this campaign. And we have 7 months left and maybe some trials left. And remember, Trump's lawyers were offering better terms to banks or lenders than to his own fans. To the bond companies, the Trump lawyers said, hey, give us this money and Trump will put up the collateral, those buildings he may partly own. And then once we get through this, Trump would pay back those lenders with interest. That was the pitch. To the Trump fans, though, no, they don't get that kind of favorable deal from their leader or guru or candidate or former president. The pitch was Trump would take their money, never give any of it back, and you can forget about interest. So I want to point something out here that's kind of straightforward or obvious, but bears noting with regard to the hypocrisy and where we are in our civic process. Donald Trump is offering capitalism for the banks because he has no other choice, but socialism and handouts for himself when he swipes from his own fans. It serves as a reminder that as a factual matter, this Trump project that so many people are living through in America, it does not run on populism. It does not run on policies to address economic anxiety. It runs on a transfer of wealth from the have-nots, who get these MAGA fundraising emails, and most of whom are anywhere near Trump's level of claimed wealth, and transferring that to the haves. That goes from the funding of the campaign and Trump's legal debts to the larger tax cuts enacted when he was in office. Now, the banks have wised up sooner than the so-called little guys, and that's usually how it goes. Though some of Trump's small dollar donors, as they call them, these are people who give 20, 30, 50, 100 bucks sometimes by email. Those are people who do watch Fox, where Trump's debts and his known refusal to pay up are now being covered as a fact of life.
If he can't get to the Supreme Court, will you loan him the $460 million?
You know,
just to help, in order to protect America's name. Think of it that way.
To get the bond, he was able to get the $90+ million from Chubb.
Yeah.
I don't know of a bond more than $90 million.
Generally, Donald doesn't have a great record at paying back banks over the years.
True. That's how they're discussing it there. And what you heard was the sound of a former Trump advisor, Larry Kudlow, who now works for Fox, asking another really rich guy if he would cover the tab. As you noticed, the answer was not forthcoming, certainly wasn't a yes. So here we are. The billionaire can't actually pay his debts. The law and order candidate actually is a defendant, in some cases civilly convicted, if you want to call it civilly liable. The Republican who inspires so much party loyalty can't close the deal with his own primary voters this week when he's the only name left on the ballot. Those are some contradictions. You could take it all in and say it is backwards. Or you could take it all in and say, well, it's actually starting to make sense because if, however slowly, it looks like the lies and the debts are failing to work, that accountability is catching up, which is why we are treated to the most oxymoronic position one could claim in modern capitalism. A true contradiction and oxymoron. We are covering the so-called plight of the broke billionaire. Donald Trump is trying to fend off or delay several trials as he goes towards this election day. They are awaiting a scheduled trial date in that Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. And a central witness in the investigation has just emerged, one of these individuals that was not named according to federal practice. He was only identified initially in Jack Smith's Trump indictment as, quote, Trump employee number 5, and referred to as a valet at the Mar-a-Lago club. We've now learned his name is Brian Butler.
A former Mar-a-Lago employee is now publicly describing how he helped to move materials related to the classified documents case.
Trump employee number 5 is a man named Brian Butler.
A central figure in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case.
An extraordinary first-hand look. Brian Butler's name could become a matter of public record sooner than we think.
This type of witness is gold for prosecutors.
A gold witness. Butler is an insider's insider, a longtime Mar-a-Lago employee. He first visited there over 20 years ago and had close relationships with the former president and the former president's co-defendant, a property manager named Carlos de Oliveira. Now, Mr. Butler is revealed, which is new. He spoke to federal prosecutors. He has the testimony that Jack Smith and his investigators think is relevant to prosecuting and possibly incarcerating former President Trump. And Brian Butler is our special guest, appearing on MSNBC for the first time tonight. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you, Ari.
I appreciate it. You know a lot of things that people are interested in. Let's start with you. Why are you choosing to come forward and speak out now?
So, you know, it weighed on me. It was March 8th, I believe, of 2023 when investigators first came to talk to me. I was not home. I was out with Carlos at the time. And, you know, it's been up and down since then. So I did not plan on speaking out publicly. And then about 3-4 weeks ago, I was reading the news, reading the court filings, and they were going to release the witness list for all the witnesses. So at that point, I said, oh. So, you know, ultimately, I said, let me jump in front of this. I thought it would be better to tell my side than it just coming out in the news publicly, you know, without me having a say or anything into it.
Right. And you've been around some of this process probably with other people's experiences or watched Donald Trump over the last few years up close more than many. So they contact you, the DOJ, in March. Did you immediately cooperate? Would you describe your interactions with them as full cooperation?
Yeah, I mean, I had actually reached out to an attorney before they had ever came to talk to me. So, you know, I didn't hire him at the time, but I had his number on speed dial, I guess you could say, if I was contacted.
Did you arrange immunity or get the perception from them that you were not a target?
I don't believe I was ever a target. I didn't receive any deal.
I just want to play because there is his perspective. What he is saying, you worked for him for a long time, what he's saying about Jack Smith and this type of probe. Take a look.
They're breaking every law to persecute us. It's been one witch hunt and phony investigation after another. These are ridiculous indictments. The single greatest witch hunt of all time. But it's all run by the DOJ. It's crooked stuff, really. These are crooked people. Deranged Jack Smith. They have no legal grounds, but they did. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. I got 4 indictments.
Is he right or wrong?
I mean, the way I see it, if these were his personal documents or he's allowed to have these by the PRA, why would you need to ask questions about video footage? Why would you possibly move the documents when they are coming to retrieve them? To me, it just doesn't make any sense. On top of that, why would you put 2 lower-level employees in the position they're in if you did nothing wrong and these are your personal documents? So
you're saying that in the way that he acted, trying to hide, and the people that he brought into it, you think you observed part of a cover-up?
I think it's very possible. From what I saw, the questions, you know, why would they ask about video footage, how long it's deleted for? Those are conversations, you know, Carlos told me he was tasked with finding out prior to Walt's arrival on a secret trip.
How different was that than usual? In other words, you describe, you get to an important point here. You describe, you know, secret sort of furtive operations, and then Walt, Trump, and his lawyers are talking to the FBI before things had fully heated up. Other boxes are being moved off the premises. How usual or unusual was that approach?
Well, I mean, I didn't know anything of what was going on at the time.
But this was the timeline in part that emerges from the evidence. And one of the key points is that they gave back some boxes. Then the government had the impression that it wasn't full. And the DOJ asked for more documents, what they thought was the missing documents. Then Trump says, oh, we have these other 38. They return that. And then continue, and these are the red arrows on our screen, where basically, and you lived this, they continue to hide these other documents. Then the DOJ finds them, kind of caught red-handed, and then you get the charges. Does that match what you experienced? And now, sitting where you are, do you know why Trump didn't just give it all back, in which case he probably never would have been charged?
Your chart seems to match up. You know, at the time, I knew nothing about. The only time I knew about boxes, and there may be something going on, was probably late June, early July, when I received a phone call from a corporate head of security, and he asked, why didn't you tell me Carlos moved boxes?
So you had the impression from the people around that Trump knew the things that went down were bad or illegal, and he didn't want that on video.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, why else would you needed to know the video footage? And then why were they calling and asking me, hey, why didn't you tell me that this guy was on video moving boxes?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I'm skipping ahead in the evidence, the notes I have here. We have something where Trump tells Newsmax as recently as last week and told Megyn Kelly a very different version than what you're saying you observed. Basically, that nothing was a cover-up because he thinks he's always had the right to all of this. So this is Newsmax and Megyn Kelly. Take a look.
I took him very legally, and I wasn't hiding them. I had the right to do it, in my opinion, and in my lawyer's opinion, and everything else. I'm allowed to take these documents, classified or not classified, and frankly, when I have them, they become unclassified. People think you have to go through a ritual. You don't.
Did he actually always act like he was not hiding them? And what would you tell a jury if asked on that question?
Well, none of that makes sense to me from what I went through. And I believe from what Carlos and Walt went through. If he really believed those were his documents, why was I vouching for Carlos in a signal first by phone to Walt, telling Walt that, hey, you can trust Carlos. When Walt calls me and asks me, somebody just wants to make sure he's good.
Loyal, yeah.
And I'm vouching for for Carlos on his loyalty and that he would never do anything to affect his relationship with the boss.
So let's put that up on the screen, because this is where we only got your name recently, and I'll let you finish, but I want to show so people can follow along. 2 weeks after the FBI discovers the classified documents, Jack Smith's brief writes that Nauta called you, we now have your name, and said someone just wants to make sure Carlos is good, what you just referenced. And you said he was loyal. And the same day, Trump tells De La Oliveira he would get him an attorney. What did loyalty mean then?
Well, I mean, to me, it means whatever was going on with him, with Carlos, Walt, and the former president, was that he wasn't going to say anything to affect what was going on at the time, whether it's the
translation,
boxes, the
potentially
surveillance,
potentially another Trump staffer committing a new crime of misleading or lying to federal investigators.
That sounds correct. But moments after that phone call with Walt, and then I confirmed in a chat group with who I now know, well, I knew at the time, Susie Wiles, which I don't remember even talking to her before. But then I'm telling her in a chat message how loyal Carlos is.
And were they using Signal because they thought it wouldn't get caught? Because the fact that it's in Jack Smith's indictment means it got caught.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess that's their messenger app of choice for obvious reasons.
So again, with the jury, if Trump's defense is largely, hey, I thought I wasn't doing anything wrong, so at best this is a misunderstanding over paperwork, and Jack Smith or his prosecutors asked you in front of the jury, was that your observation? Is that what you saw then? Your answer is what?
Well, I mean, I think there's obviously some type of obstruction, but that's not my, I'm not an attorney.
Sure, but that you didn't see him saying,
beliefs.
hey, it's all good. You saw him hiding and basically.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, moments after the Signal, I confirmed that he received a call from the former president right in front of me.
Why did you quit after all those years?
It was just time. Look, I spent 20 years there. I had other opportunities. I just think it was time. The place changed dramatically once he became president. It just wasn't the fun place that, a lot of us, we had a really good camaraderie with a lot of this staff, and it was just time to go.
And your name only became public recently. Have you heard from the president or his representatives since that time?
No, I have not.
You haven't seen him attack you in public. Why do you think that is? Because you said you wanted to go first, meaning others may come second. Why do you think he hasn't addressed what you've said from say, last week?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm speaking truthfully, so I think it's harder to attack truth, in my opinion. But I don't know.
Did you vote for Donald Trump in 2016?
I did.
Did you vote for him in 2020?
What was that?
Did you vote for him in 2020?
Correct. Yes.
You voted for him both times?
I did.
Would you vote for him again now that he's running this November?
I would not.